Welcome, ladies, to the Sun and Moon Show. And today's guest is Sophie Venable. And she helps successful women find loving relationships with men who celebrate their awesomeness. Sophie has been coaching women in career goals, communication, and relationships for over 15 years. And she holds a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. She is a certified professional coach and an author of MILF 101. Sophie, welcome.
Thank you so much. MILF stands for Make Your Life Fabulous, by the way.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you so much.
You know, it's an attention getter, if nothing else, right?
It is. It got my attention. I was wondering. But thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be. Yeah.
I am so excited because we are going to talk about subjects and regarding love. And we can all relate to that. So, Sophie, I think the first question that I have for you is, what are the common mistakes that people make in dating, men and women?
Men and women, okay.
Yes, in relationships. I think we'd all love to know that.
Well, I think that, women tend to lead things emotionally, right? And as one of my very dear friends said, I thought so brilliantly, and he's been married for 40 years and they have a wonderful relationship. He said, the woman's job is to, manage the relationship emotionally, and the man's job is to make it safe for her to do so, which I thought was really beautiful. But the problem is, I think that one of the biggest problems that I see that most women make when they're first dating is that they see the end game too soon. They're like, they're already in the mindset of, is this person a life partner? Which I understand is a great place to be, but there's so much investment, right? The reason that so many women are walking around so wounded and angry is because they might date somebody 3 or 4 weeks and get really excited about them, and then that person might ghost or go away, or maybe it doesn't work out. And in their mind, they've been all the way in the future. They've had this guy like invited to family dinner, and the holidays, and they're figuring out, if they could possibly move into his school district for their kids or whatever. They're kind of way ahead. And men just don't operate that way. Men are really present, very visceral. They have to like feel how they feel in a relationship to even think about relationship. So both men and women want security and consistency in love, but they go about it very differently. And women could actually learn from men a little bit in the sense of really thinking like, do I like how I feel around this person? Is it more than just, oh, I'm being chosen and he checks off boxes on my list, right? Yeah. So if it's, how do I actually feel around this person? How does he operate in the world? How does he treat me? Do I respect who and how he is in the world? And that takes time. That actually takes time. Like, I don't think we sort of demand commitment because it's like, well, I'm sharing my body with you, so we need to be committed. And I understand that there can be agreements about monogamy. But we sort of demand that when in fact, maybe they shouldn't have the honor of calling us their girlfriend until they've earned it, until they've really shown us who they are. So I think women could learn a lot from not seeing the end game too soon, not thinking so much down the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think a lot of that has to do with self-worth? If women maybe felt more confident and felt more self-worth, they would choose their partners wisely? Because I think, in my opinion, a lot of women, and I know I did this in the past, we don't value ourselves as much sometimes, and we just feel, oh, this is the first person that says, I love you, or you're amazing, or beautiful, wonderful. We don't
decide, but do I love you? Are you amazing? Are you beautiful? Am I excited about who you are and how you treat me? And it's not it's not a matter of, yes, it's not a matter of being completely self-centered. But when you meet somebody that you love and respect and you appreciate who they are in the world, it's fun to love them. Like you want to, you're not so worried about, it's interesting. It's this fine balance between making sure that you're getting your needs met in a relationship and feeling safe asking for what those needs are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side of that is I really love loving you. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be the perfect girlfriend so that I'm now worthy of you choosing me. It's how can I celebrate you? And I want to do that because I feel how you celebrate me too. And I think that there's this saying in the self-help world, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to love yourself before anyone can love you, or that you have to love yourself before you can find love. And honestly, I've loved many people who didn't love themselves. So I don't really like that statement. I think it's a little bit misleading in a sense of self-love is our journey, right? Like finding ourselves connected to source energy, to love energy, to like really realizing that we are like whole, perfect, evolving souls, right? Mm-hmm. That life is about expansion. Then all of those relationships that we have along the way are part of our self-love journey, right? That's part of our like, and so, yeah, sometimes like if you talk to couples that have been married 30, 40 years and you're like, so did you love yourself before you met each other? They just laugh at you. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm not even sure I love myself now. They're like, they're just kind of wherever they are on their self-love journey. So what I would say, what I like to invite people to do is to think of love as a place and not a feeling. Like if you can be in love with wherever you are in your life, whether you like, because if you say I love myself, the first thing your brain does, it goes, yeah, but I don't like my cellulite. Yeah, but I don't like my wrinkles. Yeah, but I don't like that extra 5 pounds I got on my belly, right? So if you can say, I'm not taking very good care of myself, I'm not working out very much, but I can be in love with that. I can be here in this present space of love with myself, knowing that I'm love in love, and I can just be that and allow that. Now you're not in resistance to it, and you're not, there's no room for hating on yourself. You're just like, okay, so from that space, from this moment, this present moment, what can I do about it?
So the judgment kind of fades away, right? You're not so tough on yourself.
Yeah, so you make room for that, right? You just go, okay, well, this is who I am right now in this time and space, and I'm not going to be angry with myself about it. I'm not going to resist it. I'm also not going to be blind to it and deny it. I'm just going to be like, this is where I'm at. And I can be in love with that. I can be in this space of love with that. Doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean, it doesn't mean I need to hold on to it, but it's the only way that you can actually look at it and decide if it serves you. Right? Mm-hmm. So when you can be in that space, then you're not as vulnerable to somebody else that you attract that pushes all those buttons, right? So what you're talking about is when you're in that space and you're kind of in resistance to who you are, and you're like, oh, you're just so critical, and you're so not in a space of love with yourself and not allowing yourself all of that, then you attract somebody who's just going to make all of that worse. It's called wound attraction. It's going to make you go into that deeper, right? You're going to find somebody who holds up a mirror to it, and it can either make you grow if they're a loving, safe person, or it can take you further into a spiral, right? We've all seen relationships that do one or the other. So it's really about that, what you were saying about feeling good about yourself. It's in my opinion, that's an energetic attraction. where if you have a story about yourself and what you deserve and what you don't deserve, you're going to bring exactly that into your life and you're going to mirror that.
It's like the law of attraction. It really is, right?
It really is. I mean, and that's just physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And if you understand that's what's just happening in our physical earthly world is also happening in the world that we can't see. And we know that from quantum physics, that we're actually, everything we do, every choice we make, every vibe we send out basically comes back to us. And it's not personal, it's not moral, it's not any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It just is.
It is.
It's sort of the law of the universe, right?
It's very true. I love that. I love the fact that you don't have to say that you love yourself at the moment, but you love the place where you are. You know, you're not really, because I think it takes a little bit of that judgment away. We're so critical of ourselves, especially women.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love that take on it.
Yeah, you can just come to a space. I like to think of it as kind of center, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in fear and doubt, whether it's in the past or in the future, right? Fear and doubt of the future, fear and doubt of the past, or sort of reliving, anger about the past, or self-criticism about the past, or whatever it is that's led you to here now, which you might have aspects of your personality that you're not pleased with or whatever. If you can move out of the past and out of the future and into the present moment, then there is no story in the present moment.
Oh, I love that.
As soon as you start telling a story, you're not in the present moment. You're not in the next moment.
It's like a clean slate. It really, right. I think people have a difficulty with that.
Yeah. So this moment, when you can bring yourself into the present moment, then you are just love in love. You are just in love. And so with yourself, by yourself, with yourself, right? And so I always say, like, when you meet somebody and they remind you, when you're present with somebody, you meet somebody and you're excited, right? And they remind you that you are love in love. They kind of make you feel that. And you say, I'm in love with you. And, that's not just how we feel about our primary love relationship. You've probably met girlfriends and people out in the world where you're like, I'm just in love with you. Like, that's just how I feel, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's saying to me, sure. What that means is when I am with you, I remember that I'm love in love.
That's wonderful.
And that's the kind of relationship that you want to seek. You want to seek that relationship that where the two of you remind each other that you are love in love. And that's how it keeps celebrating. You keep celebrating each other, because when you attract somebody who does not remind you that you're love in love, who sort of holds up a mirror to all your faults, you have to know you brought that into your world. You brought that into your world, and you can look at it as a test. You can look at it as something sort of mean that the universe is dumping on you, or you can look at it as a really compassionate opportunity to choose differently. Mm-hmm. And because all these relationships that you're saying, like, well, we choose these bad relationships and they don't last forever, right? Mm-hmm. That means they were wrong.
Maybe they were lessons.
Or invalid, or like, where do we categorize that?
The thing that you mentioned in the beginning, how women look at the relationship when it begins. They already see the marriage, they already see the children, they see the picket fence. How do the men see the relationships when they begin dating a woman?
They think she's pretty. I like her. I might want to have sex with her. Honest to God, that's it.
It's true.
That's it. And why shouldn't they? Why should they know any more than that? That's what I would ask you. Why should they know any more than that?
So that's where the conflict is. Men are just looking at it in a completely different.
They're very present, and we can learn from that. Because the truth is, I mean, you see it all the time. You see women who are like, they meet somebody, he's super charming, they like invest money with them, they fucking have them like get into their business with them, or they move in with them after 3 months, and then it turns out they're a total like con man,
Mhm.
what, because you were sleeping with him and because he said all the right things, you decided all of these things were true about him. Why
It's the
should you
perception.
know?
The
Why should you
assumption,
know?
right? The assumption that this is the dream man.
This is the dream guy. Why should you know if somebody should be your life partner after 3 months? Who should know that?
That is so, so true. That is so true. Mhm.
And for me, there's all of these issues around sex. I think that bring up a lot of this because there is a very old paradigm that women are diminished by sex, right? So that, like, if I give myself to you physically, I've sort of given something away of myself, and I'm now less than. And if you don't somehow end up the man that I am with forever, I've been a fool, or I've shared myself where I shouldn't have.
It's like this precious gift that
yes, and I'm not saying that you're not precious and that you're not a gift.
I know, but I know what you mean completely.
You know what I'm saying? This is a very dicey subject, okay? Because it also brings religion into it as well, right? So for some people, they're like, yeah, that's why I will not share it until I'm married. And that is a deeply personal choice. But what's happening more commonly now is that we are getting sexually involved, and it is how we get to know somebody. And we also want to know if we're compatible that way. And also, we're human beings. We want connection. We want physical touch. We want, for many of us, for me, that's my love language. I couldn't be in a relationship that wasn't pretty sexual, because that's my love language. Like, I see my man and I'm just like,
that's great.
Yeah. And fortunately, he feels the same way.
That's good.
But, so that's a very important aspect of the relationship for me. So I would want to know if I were compatible. And of course, that's a bonding that you have with another human being, that you do want that to be a respectful, act, right? In the sense that we are honoring the fact that we're both sharing ourselves, and we're both taking a risk, because men do bond sexually, not quite as heavily as women do, because we have more oxytocin, which is a bonding and trust hormone, that gets released when we have sex. And men have more of like dopamine and feel good chemicals. And so they bond, but not quite as quickly as we do. And so that's why when we bond kind of quickly, and after about 8 weeks, we're like, what is this? And what are we? And what are we doing? They kind of go away, because they're like, what am I doing? What am I? They're freaking out, and they're literally freaked out to the level of which they bonded, like they're probably going away as hard as they are attached. Like, they just have to kind of go recalibrate. And if you don't hunt them down and chase them, they almost always come back.
But it's good to know that it actually has to do something with chemicals, that it's not something that, women should feel guilty about, that, oh gosh, after 2 months, I am imagining this man as my husband. I did not know that there was a chemical issue there.
There is. And that one of the things that you can do, and I mean, as exciting as it is when you first start sleeping with somebody, is you can, even if you're sleeping with them, even if you're having sex with them, you can control the pace of that. You don't have to be spending the night every night. You don't have to be having sex with them 4 days a week. You can kind of be like, hey, I want to go out tonight. I want to do this tonight. Or, or space some time out in between. Women think if they don't go out with a guy every night, he's going to forget about them. Like, trust me, he's not going to forget about you. He's going to sit there and figure out how he gets to see you again. And that's fun for him. They like to figure things out.
That hunter, right? That hunt, the hunt.
Yes, it's that, and it's also sort of this, there's some things in primitive psychology that I agree with, and I do believe that we have an imprinting of masculine energy being sort of the chaser, like the hunter, right? but I think it has more to do with that, with the joy of the giving and providing and protecting and then the feminine receptivity. It's like,
Okay.
he can't come toward you if you're here, right? Like if you're saying, so are we going out? Are we going to do this? What are we doing Friday? He doesn't get to ask you. He doesn't get to make the date happen. He doesn't get to say, well, I was thinking I would take you to this new place, blah, 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 and then kind of get to be your hero, right? There's a receptivity that's very difficult for women to enjoy and relax into, because it is so highly valued for us to be out there doing and succeeding. And, like we're in that doing this working energy all the time, right? And so it's very difficult to not also control the relationship. Oh, I'll handle this. I'll make the reservations. I'll do this. I'll do that. And the guy's like,
do you think it is a little bit of that imbalance where women are more in their masculine energy these days?
I do.
Rather than feminine. And I think that's where it gets a little bit lost, where men are, in a position where where women are a little bit taking over.
Yes, and I think that this is not to say that you can't go out and kick ass and take over the world. Okay, please do. Yeah. However, when it comes to romance, you got to pick a role. You really do. And for some people, the woman is more in the, like, when it comes to romance and in the bedroom, whatever they want, whatever floats your boat. Some people prefer, the man prefers to be a little more receptive and the woman's a little more dominant. But even still, even if that's what's going on in the bedroom, there's still a certain amount of romancing.
I call it like a dance. It's almost
it is a dance. That's what I call it. It's not a game. It's a dance, and somebody has to lead. And he can't lead if you don't give him some room to lead, right? If you're like, what we call it in dancing, we call it back leading. And when the woman is pulling him and telling him what to do, it's back leading. So don't back lead your man. You can. There are ways to sort of nurture your own femininity and kind of relax into it and be receptive. And sometimes it's as easy as like reminding yourself as you come home from work, put on something comfortable and play some music and get into your playfulness and your receptivity and your fluidity, and get rid of your organizer and your planner and your schedule and stop looking at it, because this is not about being girly or being macho. It's not about that. This is about being playful and fluid and receptive and fun and maybe a little chaotic and maybe, and not so rigid, right? Because it's not, because men are doing that all day long too.
You reminded me of a little story. So funny, but this is coming from my priest, Father Cotrone, who actually married me years ago. But he was telling me a story about his parents. And he is right now 84 years old. So you can imagine how long ago this was. But when I was getting married, he gave me advice. And it was such a simple thing. He said, Dorothy, remember, my mother, when she was married to his father, worked hard all day, took care of the kids, did all these things. But the second her husband was coming home, she ran to the mirror and always put on her lipstick and fixed her hair. He told me that, and he said it was that thing that no matter how tired she was or exhausted, it didn't take her much, it took her 3 minutes, but she wanted to be beautiful for her husband when he walked in through the door. She always fixed, he told me this, he said, remember, always put on your lipstick and just fix your hair quickly when your husband comes home. And I thought it was so cute, because I think
there's a lot of women that would be offended by that.
Yes,
they're like, why do I have to look good for my husband? Because you bring the feminine. You bring that was the feminine relationship, and that's going to inspire him to give to you.
Exactly. Yes.
We forget that we want to feel wanted by our man. It's like, because there's a feeling of, well, if I have to like be his sex pot, or if I have to just do that, then I'm just giving to him more. I'm doing this all day, and now I'm just giving to him. Because what's being forgotten there is, by the way, he's giving you the masculine. Like your relationship, your primary love relationship is the only place that you get to express your sexuality. And it's the only place that you get to bond. And if you're in a monogamous relationship, it's the only place that you get to bond in that way and have that human expression of love and bonding. Mm-hmm. And that's for both of you. And sexual intimacy for many men is their primary love language. And it's why he was like, I love you so much that I'm okay with only doing this with you for the rest of my life. Do you know what a big deal that is? That's like a huge deal. And so I mean, every time I go out with my boyfriend, I make sure I smell good. Even if we're like super casual and it's not like my best outfit or whatever, I make sure I smell good. He loves that. Mm-hmm. And we have this little joke where he always says, God, you smell good. And I go, it's my job.
I love that. You see, that's beautiful. I think you need that. I think in relationships, I have noticed, I was married, I divorced, and I'm engaged now. I noticed that little bit of that dating.
Yes.
That people forget
courtship,
date nights, the little things, even that lipstick that Father Cotron mentioned. It was not a lot of effort, but it's reminding the man that he's coming home to a woman.
Mm-hmm. And it reminds you that you're a woman.
Yes.
It reminds you, oh, I bring the beauty. Oh, yes. Let's do this. Mm-hmm.
I'm a true believer in that.
Yeah.
That feminine and masculine.
And the right, that a kind man will let you know that he appreciates it, and
exactly.
Say, there's my girl.
And also vice versa, letting him know,
mm-hmm.
I love you, thank you for taking care of your family, just little things, making him, I guess, feel, okay, so here you go. What are the little tips, let's see, for the ladies to make the man feel, in his masculine role, more like a man, where things that he enjoys, for example. I know, we're reversing it a little bit.
Well, no, it's cool, but and I was just thinking, I'm like, my man also takes really good care of himself.
Wow, nice.
Okay, so
that's
like, and that's the funny give and take, right, in a relationship where you do see it sometimes where one person in the relationship is really taking care of themselves and the other person is not. And it makes you wonder, what's going on there, because it's part of a deeper need that's not being met, or whether it's being met by the other person or themselves. Mm-hmm. It's up to him to make sure that he's moving his body and exercising and keeping his testosterone up and feeling sexy. Like we all have our sexies on the inside, right? But it requires a certain amount of energetic flow and feeling good about ourselves. I mean, we all know after the holidays, they're like, yeah, babe, don't look, So both partners really owe it to each other, right, to keep that spark going. So when I teach how to keep passion alive, I actually use, I have a printout of it somewhere, but I'm not sure. If you look up the fire triangle, okay, this is just science. Okay. All right. And you see the triangle that makes fire burn is fuel, spark, and oxygen. Okay. Think of the fuel as your time shared together, your trust, your love, your history, that trust that allows for a certain amount of abandon and openness with each other. That's like the fuel, right? That's the big pieces of wood, right? And when it's early on in relationship, you just have to acknowledge that that's kind of kindling, like you got to build that stack of wood. And the spark is the attraction and the keeping yourselves hot for each other and wearing perfume and having him wear that soft t-shirt that you really like, or letting him know that you really like that soft t-shirt or you like how his hair is, whatever it is. Like, we keep ourselves, we honor the fact that our partner enjoys being attracted to us, right? I've had women ask me, my husband's really upset that I cut my hair. It's my damn hair. Why can't I cut it? And I'm like, you can, of course you can, but you have to acknowledge that if he's like fallen in love with this like long-haired beauty and you just come home one day and you've got a pixie cut, that's going to be jarring for him. And it might make him feel a little like you didn't care. You didn't care about the attraction, right? About the spark. And of course he loves you and he's going to love you no matter what, but we're talking about keeping passion alive over the long haul. And that is no small task.
Nope.
So when you just like willy-nilly cut your hair off.
Yep. That's going to affect it.
It's kind of like you're like turning off the sprinklers in the garden for 5 days and just hoping everything's going to work out. It's like, this is a delicate system here, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to let each other know that we care. Like, I care that you find me attractive. And yeah, you're going to gain 10 pounds. You're going to your boobs are going to sag more. Your butt's going to spread, whatever. You have no idea how little men actually care about that. If you are loving yourself, if you're taking care of yourself, right? And you're keeping your own spark alive, because let me tell you, there are women of all sizes that are so sexy, you can barely be in the room with them. Like,
yeah, it's true.
Right? So it's like, what is the heat coming off over there? Owning it, right? Mm-hmm. So, and if you talk to men, they, about, their wives that they're super attracted to, they're like, yeah, her butt's bigger. It's just like, oh, I got a new girlfriend. Great. Like, whatever. And so we honor those things we honor what keeps the spark going. And then the most important thing, right? If you think of a fire and how do you snuff out a candle? Take away the oxygen, right? Mm-hmm. If you read a book called Mating in Captivity, Esther Perel talks about her whole thing in working with couples, her whole fascination. She wrote this book about 10 years ago, is, can you desire what you already have? Can you desire what you already have?
I love her, by the way.
Oh, she's amazing. And I can't believe I just read her book. Like,
oh, really? I watched her, she does therapy sessions with couples.
I know.
I listened to a few.
She's amazing. And she's, and the funny thing is I started writing a book called The Illusion of Vows. And as I was researching things, that's how I found Mating in Captivity. And I was like, oh my God, this book.
She has such a great intake on things, right? She has such mind-blowing.
She's wonderful. I think that book is one of the most important books written about modern relationship. I really do. So, and she actually says in the book, she says, fire needs air, and I was like, yes, that's like, we have to give each other room. We have to give each other mental space and physical space. Again, if you're like this with somebody, they have no room to come toward you. They have no room to miss you. They have no room to witness you, right? To watch you being your whole self. So if for couples that work together and live together, some of them can do it, but it's really challenging. And eventually, generally, one of them is like, I think I need to maybe have an adventure over here on my own. Not necessarily like a relationship. I don't mean that, but like I might want to go on a weekend with the girls, or the guy might be like, I need to go to Vegas with the boys and just like play poker and relax. That's not because they don't love you. That's because they need to kind of reconnect with themselves and be able to look at you and witness you from afar, and then come back to you, like desire you, because there's no space. The desire can't be there if it's already here. And desire is the beginning of everything. In love,
it's very important.
Right? Desire is
very important for people to have their own space, their own interests and hobbies. I think it makes you grow as a person, because you're when I began my new relationship, the one thing that I said to him, I brought so many lessons from my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, these are the lessons. There will be couple time, there will be family time, there will be kids time, and also alone time. And he looked at me like I was a little bit of an alien from another planet. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, no, I've learned this, that you need a little time alone to regroup, to take time for yourself, to give that part of yourself to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then that family time with the kids, and then the date nights, the time alone as a couple, because I've learned you become the mom, you forget that you're a woman.
Yep.
You forget that you're sexy or beautiful or all these things, the women feel, and things start fading and things start taking a different course. So those are the lessons. So I'm a big believer in that time separation.
Yeah. And that, like what you just said, when you forget, you forget that you're a woman, you forget, when you're taking care of kids, what is confusing for people, because again, we look at masculine and feminine energy as male-like and female-like, and it really isn't that, right? If you just think of it as giving energy and receiving energy, right? Linear and fluid, right? Momming is actually kind of you're in your masculine giving energy. Giving. We think of it as like, oh, she's the lovely nurturing mother. It's like, no, you're not. You're dealing with everybody's schedules, and you're doing, and you're solving, and you're driving, and you're, like that's all day, right? So we forget that parenting is actually a lot of providing, protecting, and doing and solving, right? It's not all about the nursing and the nurturing. It's not like,
no, it's not.
Right? That's so little of it.
Everything else is due.
Right? So there has to be a conscious flip before date night. And it's kind of up to you, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it's really important. I can't if you don't like doing this, then I can't make you do it, but I'll tell you.
Okay.
Even if, let's say my evening starts out where, let's say Mark is late, okay? And let's say this was one of those nights where I really wanted to be on time, okay? Because I know he's going to be late, and it's not personal and whatever. So most of the time, I don't care. I just expect it. Because he's a giver. He's a single dad, and he's always trying to please everybody, and he's doing everything, his way. So I know why he's late. But let's say it's like, let's say I'm irritated, okay?
Uh-huh.
It is a conscious, loving, disciplined place for me to be a grown-up, don't get my own door, let him get my door for me, have that connection, let him be my man in that moment, do our dance. Because in doing the dance, I'm saying, I'm here, you're my man, we're doing this. Even though I'm a little irritated right now, I still want this romance with you. I'm not going to punish you for it. I'm not going to bitch about it. I'm just going to go, okay, let me give you room now, even though you were late. And I'm a little irritated. Let me give you room to drop out of that story and into our romantic evening. Okay? Because really, who gives a shit if he's late? Like, really? I mean,
I think we label it.
Do I want the evening? Yes, that's what I want.
I think women, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, not all women, but from my past experiences, I would label it as, you don't care about me, you're late, something else was more important, it was not important, you didn't put me first, you promised, you lied, all of these little things.
And that might be true. And if that's the case, then that's an issue in your relationship and you need to talk about it, right?
Exactly.
But if you know your man and that's your story.
That's the difference. See, your story versus
the truth
what actually is happening.
Yeah.
The assumptions.
Yeah. I mean, look, people are not perfect. I always say that's his only flaw.
It is.
It kind of
No
is,
one is
but
perfect.
you know, we all have our flaws, right? There are times that I can just be completely like, if I'm PMSing, if there's a combination of like PMS and stress and this and that, he knows now because we've been together 9 years plus. He could just look at my face and go like, "Oh,
I need to leave. You need some space.
and I'm not well, or he just gives me room to be in that place. He doesn't take it personally. He could put a whole story to it. He could put a story to it that I'm just like a bitch and I'm impatient, or I'm, I should be able to handle my emotions better or whatever. I mean, he could put a story to it, but instead he just knows what it's about. And he's like, okay, let's get you fed. Let's get you this.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Food always resolves everything.
I'm telling you.
Fed.
And a little bit of red wine sometimes.
That's good.
But so I guess that's what I would say as far as in relationship, right? Is you have to own the story. You have to know, okay, what are the facts and what is the story that I have around it, and how much of that intersects, how much of that is true.
That is so important.
When you do that, now you can ask for what you need. Okay. Now you can say, okay, I noticed that you've been late, that you were a half an hour late, right? Like something inarguable, actual tangible. I noticed that you were half an hour late. I imagine I imagine that, I mean, if you want to say this, I imagine that you kind of didn't want to be here. Is that true? Like this is what I'm imagining. Or I imagine that it's because of work. Is that true? And you can untangle the story without being accusatory. You don't say, I noticed you were pissed off, because that's an assumption, right? I noticed you were half an hour late. I imagine it's because you're mad at me. Is that true? Oh no, it's work, right?
I think that's such a big tip, Sophie. I think that's so great, because I think a lot of people do that assumption, and and sometimes the experiences from your past even affect certain things, in your relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Because you're creating a story. We're always creating a story, right? And again, that's when, if you can get into the present moment where there is no story, right? And you can be in love with this person and their flaws, right? And you say, okay, well, this happened, inarguable. I notice your phone is on your lap. I imagine it's because you're, worried about so-and-so. Is that true? Or I imagine it's because I'm boring you. Is that true? Right? Because the phone is there. The phone is real. If you say, you seem really distracted, they might be like, no, I forgot to put my phone away. I'm totally with you. But we have stories, because we go immediately into our insecurity and we go like, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And so you start to project all of that onto the other person and what they're doing. So look at the facts, right? And then look at your story and see what intersects.
Thank you for that, Sophie, because I think there will be a lot of arguments that will be avoided.
I hope so.
You have no idea.
There's a lot of really loving people in the world who just don't know how to relate. There's a lot of beautiful men out there who want to be the masculine to your feminine. There are a lot of men out there who they just don't have the skills. And we have to give them a little bit of room to develop those skills and to come toward us. And it doesn't mean we have to tolerate being treated poorly. I mean, I genuinely feel like my man is the most loving human being I've ever known. And there are times when I'm like, how could you do that? That was so thoughtless. And I'm like scratching my head, and he's like, oh man, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
Well, you see, I don't think they do it maliciously. I don't think it's
there's a lot that they don't do maliciously because they're single focused, right? They're just like
an empty box. I don't know if you ever saw that YouTube video about men having the empty box. Did you ever see that?
No.
Yes, there was a comedian standing on stage. This was hysterical. I will send this to you after our interview.
Okay.
But he was saying that women have a box for everything. You know, children, work, house, everything. And men have this box that's called an empty box. And sometimes they are just in that empty box, and it drives us women crazy.
Yeah.
Sit in there for hours, not think about anything, not and we're just like, why are you in the empty box? What are you thinking about? Yeah.
Yeah. They are the multitaskers, you know.
I think that's what it is. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, you know, that whole seeing the end game thing, the whole like seeing the future, being in the future. We, you know, if anybody's ever bought a car or a car seat or a stroller or a vacuum or anything with a man, they know women are like, no, we need to get that now because it's not going to fit in that car. We're going to have to do it in this car, and then we're going to go this, and then we're going to, you know, they're like all the way down here. And you go, okay, honey, we got to go pick out a car seat. And he's like, baby's not due for 3 months.
So true.
Right? And you're like, how can you not know this? But the car.
We are planners. Planners.
And that's literally just how we process information, right? And so, so you know, and I always say, like, thank God, because if sex was complicated for both genders, we'd be extinct. And two, like, if men were, you know, I don't know if you've ever been around men that are worrywarts and they're always in the future, but they are no fun to be around. And actually they get kind of accused of being chicks. Like, you know, they'd be like, oh, he's such a girl. He's just always like, worried or this or that, whatever. And he talks too much. He's this and that. And you hear this and you're like, oh, wow, that's so interesting, because he's got this sort of multitasking mind, right? And I've seen women find that unsexy. Not all women. It's just an example. But it's very interesting how it's also very masculine to be kind of grounded and single focused. And actually it feels really good, particularly when they're single focused, is you. So that's where it's like, if you can remember that out in the world, go and use all that healthy masculine energy, like, be the brilliant problem solving, amazing woman that you are. But remember, if what you crave at the end of the day is the masculine, then the only way you're going to draw that in is with your receptivity. You have to create that polarity. So if you don't, that's when you get the, you know, I talk to a lot of women who are like, you know, I encouraged him in his career. I did this. I supported him. I did this. And I just never felt like he stepped up and took care of his own life. And it's like, he didn't, you know, you attracted somebody who wasn't really in his healthy masculine yet, because you're too busy being in yours. Right. So you have to create the polarity. It's science.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
That's very true. I think women take on too much, and sometimes we lose that side of ourselves.
And, you know, here's the thing that I can tell you is that, because I was, you know, I ran the household. I mothered my ex-husband. I took care of everything. He barely had to do it. And he worked really, really hard. And when I say he barely had to do anything, it was like he had no household chores. And so he wasn't really involved in taking care of himself. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And that happens a lot when people have big jobs, and he was in the film industry, and he just worked constantly. So, but what that created was a dynamic in my household where I sort of ran everything. So if we went on a date, I made reservations. I got the babysitter. I got, you know, I ran everything. Right. And I forgot how to be receptive. He had no room to be my man, and he didn't know why. You know, we didn't know how, we didn't see what was happening. And the truth is we were, I think our relationship was expiring anyway, and we were more like business partners and best friends than we were lovers by the end.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that is because of the masculine and feminine dynamic that wasn't happening in a healthy way between us. And so when I started dating, I immediately attracted somebody who was just like that.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And then I had to work on my own receptivity, right? And not running the relationship, not controlling things. And eventually I attracted somebody who was like just so my man, and it's not only macho. He's not macho,
Mm-hmm.
just grounded. And
That's beautiful.
it's why I do what I do, because it sounds so corny, but to really be in love and be able to be in your feminine and be celebrated as a woman by a man who you adore and respect and want to celebrate, there's nothing like it. There's nothing more like
Mm-hmm.
gratifying and grounding and like, it's a different way of life. It's a different way of life when you're not in that struggle of managing the relationship and just wishing he would step up and wishing. It's just, we get ourselves into that situation because we're still trying to control.
I think that's what it is. A lot
Yeah.
of it is that control.
Yeah. And so you're literally attracting the wrong guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like you're barking up the wrong tree, basically. And then that just keeps adding to your story that there's no good men out there and there's no real men out there. And it's like, and people are going to get offended by this, then be a real woman. If you're going to call it a real man, then be a real woman, because you have to create that polarity.
Yes.
And right now what we think a real woman is somebody who solves all the problems of the world.
I know.
Right.
I know. And we forget to be women in the process.
Just to be receptive, just to be fluid, just to bring the fun, bring the beauty, bring the chaos, bring the love, bring all of that, right? Because that's exciting for them. They want to like be all about it. They're not using it. They're basking in it. And that's the crime, I think, that we've created around women's sexuality and femininity in general. Like men need to nurture their femininity as well. They need to be more playful. They need to get outside. They need to allow themselves some fluidity, right? Mm-hmm. They're so busy being, the earth is dying.
I know.
Just need more feminine energy in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to remember that we're in relationships for joy. We're in this for joy. We're not in this for survival anymore. The paradigm is shifting. We're in this for joy. We're in this to learn about love. We're in this to heal our souls. We're in this for connection and love and expansion as souls.
Sophie, there's a question I had for you, and this is because I have girlfriends. I'm surrounded by women in my life. Mm-hmm. And the one concern that so many of them have is my man is not romantic. Mm-hmm. He does not do all these romantic things that I see on Titanic. I mean, not Titanic, bad example, but all the romantic movies. Women see all these romantic movies and they think that this is how it's supposed to be. You are going to come home to Richard Gere and there'll be candles lit and champagne and you'll be wearing sexy lingerie every night. What would you say to women when they have these expectations from men to be romantic and they're not? Because my experience, to be honest, is that I feel not every man is romantic, but for example, my fiance shows romance in different ways. Mm-hmm. He will bring me coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. And to me, he might not be the guy that will light the candle. Mm-hmm. He takes forever to plan a date night. Oh gosh, I will end up doing it. But he will bring me coffee. And if
Mhm.
I'm stressed, he'll rub my shoulders. And it's these little things
Mhm.
that I have learned to tell myself that this is his way of showing romance. It might not be the traditional way that I would love, but that's his way.
Well, there's a couple things. If the man has never been romantic and they've chosen to marry that man,
Mm-hmm.
stay in that relationship, then they've got a harder road.
Oh boy.
Well, honestly, because, well, think about it. I mean, you teach people how to treat you. You've made it okay. So okay that you've decided to be married.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, um, the thing that's important. Okay, this is about not just romance, but kind of about everything. This can be about support in helping with the dishes, or it comes up a lot around affection, like hand holding and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this can go both ways for men and women. If we ask for what we want and we say, I really love it when you hold my hand, or it makes me feel really special when you hold my hand in public, or if he's touching your hair and you say, I love it when you do that, or gosh, that feels good. Or let's say it's not happening and you say, it would really mean a lot to me. It would feel like love to me if you, um, um, turned on some music or lit some candles when, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing that happens. There's this dynamic that happens where we ask for what we want. Let's say it's something as simple as, I wish you'd hold my hand more. So he holds your hand more. And the little voice in your head says, he's only doing this because I asked. He's not doing it because he wants to.
Bingo.
Okay?
I'm saying bingo because that's so true.
Yeah. And that's your problem. Okay? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because yes, he's doing it because you want him to, because he loves you and wants you to be happy. So just receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Just give him a smile. Just give him a nudge. Like, thanks. I love that you're doing this for me, even though I asked because I wanted it, and you're doing it for me because I asked because you love me. So
that is so funny. I'm laughing because I think all women can relate to that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, think about it when it gets even more vulnerable. Sexual things.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if you did this, and then he does it, and you're like, he's not doing this because he wants to. He's doing it because I asked. It's like, yes, and you're gonna just have to relax and receive.
The biggest thing, overthinking and
No, it's overthinking. And what it does is it really takes away his opportunity to be your man.
Mm-hmm.
A man that loves you wants you to be happy. He wants to make you happy. If you give them a way to fix things, they will fix it. And it doesn't mean you're not going to have to ask him again. That's the thing. That's the other thing. If I have to ask him 2 or 3 times, it means he doesn't love me. It's like, no, it just means he's a guy. And
yeah. I think understanding that is a big factor. Just understanding that men are really different.
Now, here's the thing. Like I have a client who is in a relationship with an artist, and he's really into his art, and he should be. He's amazing. He's super talented. But truly what she gets in the relationships are kind of crumbs.
Mm.
He really just does not have a lot of bandwidth for the relationship. He's happy. He feels partnered. He probably feels even better doing his art because he feels so partnered and loved, right? But what he cannot seem to make more room in his life for the relationship. And she can see why, she can see all these things, but eventually it started turning into really feeding into her insecurity because he doesn't want to be with me. So they have little time together. So then of course they have sex. So then sex becomes the only expression in the relationship. It's a spiral, right? Mm-hmm. It starts to degrade. Mm-hmm. And so then now you're like, well, if he doesn't want to have sex with me, then he must not want anything from me. He must not love me. It's the whole story, right? So then you have to say, okay, we can understand this. We can say he's a guy, he's an artist, he's this, he's that, all those things. But ultimately, are you getting what you want from this relationship? Is this why you're in relationship? Do you want to be working this hard to get somebody's attention? Even if you know they love you, right? Because some people are better in relationship than others. Some people are better at showing their love. Some people, their love language is quality time. So if somebody's just giving you scraps of time and there's no end in sight to that because that is the way they live, then you have to make a choice. And that's where I love you and you're my life partner are two different things. And that is really difficult.
Yes.
That's a really difficult thing to swallow. That's the hardest breakup. That's the most heartbreaking thing, you know? And that's how life is now for humans, because we're not tribal. We don't like, yeah, I love you, you're not my life partner, but hang out in the tribe. It's not like that. You know, you love somebody, but they're not your life partner. They're gone. And it's horrible.
Like it's a big, to distinguish those two things, you know, that you can love someone, but they're just not the perfect person for you.
They're not your life partner, because let me tell you, when you have more at stake, you start buying property together, you have children together, you're dealing with parenting issues, and somebody's just absent. Why are you in relationship? Right? Where's the love? Where's the fuel? How are you going to keep that going? You need shared experience. You need, you know, time.
That's why I think it's so important for people to discuss all of these things before they get married.
Oh God.
I think a lot of people don't. I love you, you love me, and we're going to have this perfect life together, and then boom, you're married, you're in the same house, you know, first child is born and everyone's just lost in, right?
First year, first baby, hardest year of any relationship.
Yep.
And really, what's not acknowledged a lot is what the man loses in that, because he's been sort of the center of your world. And now the baby is getting the attention.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's something that's not really discussed often.
Yeah. And then when he wants to connect with you and it involves sex, then it's like, how could you want that? I'm touched out. I've been holding a baby all day. How could, you know, that's just more giving. That's more giving. And it's like, actually, if you can put that baby down, get a babysitter, somehow, you know, feed yourself, get into your feminine, then you will find that intimacy refueling. You know?
I think it's important for both people to work on the relationship. I think one of the big things is the relationship is work from day one. It's not something that's just going to come smoothly.
It's responsibility more than anything. I think it's work in the sense that you need a certain amount of discipline. If you're going to decide to be in relationship, you know, people always say, oh, your love should be unconditional. Love, being in love is unconditional by nature. Like if you're really, you know, connected to being in love. But relationships are conditional, and they should be. And that's a really horrible, that's why people stay in abusive relationships, because they're like, oh, I should love him unconditionally. He just has a problem. Well, if his problem includes hitting you, that's not okay. That's fear. That's not love. You can't be in fear and in love at the same time. That's not love. That's not. And it's not. There's the most loving thing you can do is to love yourself by removing yourself from that situation. That's love. You don't live in fear of someone. And so this idea that love is like, we love each other and therefore it's going to work. And we're going to get married and we're going to love each other unconditionally. No, there's conditions, kindness, respect, being loving. You know, this is why we're in relationship. I understand that marriage is a lifetime institution, but we all know that it's lifetime. There's also something called divorce. And so we do have choice. We have choice every day. And what's amazing is when you choose your partner every day, when you're excited to choose your partner every day that you wake up. And when when we love, the reason I'm doing an event and I'm calling it Loving on the Edge, because when we're being really authentic in relationship and we're allowing our partner to be truly authentic, we're loving on the edge every day. There are no guarantees. Every relationship in this earthly dimension ends by death or by breakup. And so there are no guarantees. And so if both we can acknowledge that and we can live in possibility and we can choose each other every day and we can allow each other to expand, even if it's uncomfortable for us, that's when love just like, you just love your partner even more when you didn't even think you could, because you're literally witnessing them expand and they're witnessing you expand, and you are spiritual partners. Because marriage as we know it, we can be very attached to that old paradigm, but the truth is we don't marry for survival and property rights anymore. We don't. We marry for this theoretical, joyful partnership where we feel partnered.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like we've got somebody on our team.
Exactly.
And like it or not, you have choice. You can end your marriage. You can pretend that you can't, but you can. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
One person can. One person can. When people say, oh, I'll never get divorced, I'm like, yeah, I remember saying that. Guess what? It's like a three-way wall switch. You know how like in the hallway switch, you've got one over here and one over here? One of you can turn out the light.
That's right.
So don't be thinking that you're totally in control of this. And you can live in fear of that, and you can be freaked out and insecure about it, or you can be excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be like, all right, that's okay. I love this person. My love for this person is unconditional, but our relationship, whether or not we are together as life partners, that's conditional. That's conditional.
Sophie, I'm actually excited that you mentioned your show, because I would love for you to tell everyone about the show that you're going to have in February, what it's about.
Okay, this has been kind of a crazy leap for me. I decided to rent this beautiful theater in Glendale, California. It's called the Alex Theater in downtown Glendale. And the event is on February 3rd, 2018, and it's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's a one-day relationship workshop where we're going to talk a lot about the stuff that we talked about today. And I'm also going to sing.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, and the reason for the singing is not because I really need anybody to think of me as this amazing singer. It's not about that. Mm-hmm. It's I've hired a wonderful pianist and musician to accompany me. And he's actually a young man who's newly engaged, and he's excited about the project. He's writing a musical right now about sex and love.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah, so we're really like in the same mindset about this. And so I'm singing jazz standards, and one, because music gives us room for our emotions, you know, to, like I was talking about, like if you're feeling sad or angry or insecure, to really allow yourself that space to just have that feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And music does that for us, right? When we're heartbroken, we listen to songs so we can cry, and or if we're in love, we listen to songs that help us like rejoice about being in love. And jazz standards to me are really timeless, and the matters of the heart are really timeless. And so I'll probably sing about 5 or 6 songs, maybe a little bit more, and Daniel might sing a little bit too. So
that is so exciting. We're going to put all of the information about it under this interview. So that everyone has the links and gets a little more info about it. But that's exciting. I cannot wait to hear you sing.
Anywhere in the Los Angeles area, you can come on up.
Yep, LA, February 3rd, right?
Yeah, February 3rd, day before Super Bowl.
Nice. Sophie, thank you so much for being with us today. This was so wonderful.
Thank you for having me. It was so lovely to have the conversation with you. It's my favorite conversation to have.
It is, right? Thank you, and I will talk to you soon, and sending you much love.
All right, and if anybody has any questions for me or anything, they can email me at sophie@sophievenable.com, and I'm happy to get back to you.
Wonderful. I'm going to put all of that information under this link so they can always reach you. And Sophie is amazing. So reach out to her with any questions about relationships and love that you have. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.